Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we have an update on the situation with Webtoon yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the
Day before.
Day before. We did a video, an episode talking about Webtoon and how an anonymous creator said they got the contract for Webtoon originals, and it was very one-sided. It was very predatory, and basically you sign over your baby for a relatively small sum of money, and they get the publishing rights, they get the merchandising rights, they get the media rights, and
of course we didn't see the contract ourselves.
We did not.
This is what they're saying. We cannot confirm.
Other people did corroborate the story, though, and they said that that is the contract they were presented with. Well, now we've got other creators who have had Webtoon deals coming out and saying, yeah, our deal is pretty garbage, and some of these people actually signed better deals a couple of years ago, and to her credit, Heidi McDonald actually tracked down somebody at Webtoon, and
the Beat staff. So
the Beat staff. Okay, well,
somebody from the Beat.
I think there were a couple people involved here.
Well, you know, it's not that hard because how many times when we brought Webtoon did they come after us? Normally they're like,
they did.
You need to say nice things about us. It's like, no, I don't.
Why do we?
I do say nice things in the fact that it's a really good place to go if you want to start out doing comics and you want a big platform to put it on. That is completely true, and I will always recommend it for that reason. They have a really good community who is very engaged.
Yes.
I would recommend it for that reason. But when it comes to a contract deal, I would do nothing unless you have a lawyer look at it.
Yeah. And that's sort of the takeaway from this is even when it comes to some, I mean, the problem is a lot of cartoonists can't afford a lawyer that does this sort of work.
And these places, not saying this one in particular, but a lot of these places bank on it.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this because there's a statement, but the statement basically confirms what the poster was saying. They're just trying to put a more positive spin on it, but it basically confirms it. Yeah, this is the contract, and take it or leave it. And they're kind of disheartened that somebody would throw them under the bus like this. But people are making comparisons to Tokyo Pop. That was a whole big the OEL, and I think we brought that up in the video too. That it definitely is a one-sided favoring the publisher, and yeah, so let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Again, you can go back and watch that other video. You can go out to Reddit on the Webtoons subreddit, and this person has deleted their account, probably because they signed an NDA and they went out and they spilled the beans on what happened and they caused a big brouhaha. But yeah, so this article, very lengthy article on Comics Beat, goes into the whole history of Webtoons, which we talked about, but they said that they reached out to Webtoon. This is what they said. The Beat reached out to Webtoon for comment and received this statement. We're aware of a post online that misrepresents our terms and how we work with creators. At Webtoon, we've created multiple programs that allow creators to select the path to monetization that works best for them in their series.
Well, that doesn't answer a question.
No, and I can talk about that because I think they mention it. Some of the other options to monetization. They said our platform monetization models prioritize creators, ensuring they can build an audience for their webcomic and make money.
On their site.
On their site, yes. Our terms enable creators to maintain ownership of their webcomic while bringing their story to life in a growing number of monetizable formats.
Yeah, but they're not saying that we aren't the ones that control what you can and can't do there. They're just talking around it.
Yeah, so there are multiple paths to monetization on Webtoons. Originals creators are the people who are basically invited to make their comic exclusive with Webtoon in exchange for a monthly stipend. Now, I don't know what they're paying now. I have talked to Webtoon creators years ago, and they were paying, I believe it was like $2,000 to $3,000 a month was about what you could expect. But you had to keep the update schedule, which is grueling, and you had to stay exclusive to their platform with that comic. I don't know if you'd have time, if you could do another comic on another platform, but you were pretty much exclusive. But the other paths, and I think the Beat actually kind of outlined it, the other paths to monetization are, tip jar, ad revenue sharing. I don't know what they do currently, but when we just mirrored our comic on their site, and they would basically throw money in Patreon based on your view count. And it was actually pretty decent. I'll be honest, because for us, it was like we were already making money on our main platform, but they would, I think they maxed out at like $1,000 a month though. So they would show you kind of the breakdown of like, if you get this many page views, we'll give you this much money. If you get this many page views. But I think some of that came from like venture capital or an infusion or something from Naver, because I think that stopped. Now they just do like an ad share. And then they also have a tip jar, which is you can basically beg for super chats.
Well, they're going to talk about like some of the different things. It said Webtoon also provided some details of how the original's contracts work. They don't show the contract though, guys. They never show the contract.
No.
It requires digital exclusivity to the platform, lasting 3 years from the date of the series completion. That is a ridiculously long time.
Wait. Lasting 3 years from the date of the series completion. So
3 years from completion.
So if it's an ongoing thing, and
they get to keep it, and you have to keep it on there. You can't do anything else with it. They get to keep it on there for 3 years. This means the series can only be featured online on Webtoon and not on any other Webtoon platform, personal blog, or webcomic site or app. You only can put it on there 3 years, which is very long. They said while original creators do receive money from Webtoon to start and maintain the series, creators in the program potentially maintain majority ownership of the webcomic. Potentially. And earn money through readers' purchases, ad revenue, and other monetization mechanisms while their comics are featured on Webtoon. Comic creators can shop their project around to other websites or print publishers on their own after their exclusivity period with Webtoon ends. So 3 years. You can go to other places, but they get to keep it for 3 flipping years. Yeah. That's awfully long.
Yeah, and that's after the last chapter of the series. So we're talking, if your series goes on for 3 or 5 years, some of these series go on for like a decade.
You can't do anything until 3 years later, and you go through them to do it.
Yeah.
And they get to keep everything.
Yeah.
So, except for whatever they have to pay you for it. So, when asked for comment, a Webtoon spokesperson pushed back against the claims made in the Reddit post, saying that most of what was described was inaccurate. Okay, cool. Show us the contract. Should be no problem to show us what your boilerplate contract is, right? For example, according to Webtoon, their contracts don't allow a purchase of 100% of the IP. It doesn't say they don't try to take some of it, though.
Yeah.
Webtoon denied that this had occurred in the case of the OP or any other Webtoon creators.
100%. Well, it could be that they might reserve the right to buy it dirt cheap and you don't have enough of an ownership stake. It could even be a 51-49 that you're basically tethered to them forever. You know?
We don't know because we can't see the contract.
No.
Webtoon characterized their participation as being an investor in the work. Run, beep, 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 run. With creators maintaining ownership of their underlying IP. According to a spokesperson, Webtoon's deal supports creators at every stage of the process. You mean you tell them what to do? Without any guarantee of the company recouping the costs involved with launching the new original series on their platform. This sounds so much like something else. I can't say what it is, but I have seen something like this and run.
Yeah, it's not just in the comic space. Let's just say that there are other creative endeavors where people
We're an investor. We're sharing.
We're an investor. We're sharing your platform, and we're going to share the revenue from it. And it's a completely one-sided deal that completely favors the quote-unquote investor, who's not really an investor. Basically, all they're doing is they're throwing a couple bucks at you to keep your stuff on their platform.
Yeah,
you're making everything yourself,
and if you make a lot of money, they still get a big lion's share, or a big hunk of it, And
you have to just take their word for it. Like a lot of times when you're on one of these networks and they're, it's like ad revenue based or performance based, you just got to take their word for it. Like, this is what you made in ad revenue. Trust us, bro. This is what you made.
Right, because they just have to say, we've been in a situation too where I'm not going to name names again, but we were a part of a group before, and the checks suddenly started becoming very, very low. When the
views were going up,
but the views were going up, and the ad revenue was fine, and the company was, wanting to do other things, and all of a sudden we weren't getting paid much. And trust us, bro, that's what it is.
Yes.
But when you have someone saying they're an investor, but they're taking all the risk, that means that yes, they're taking the risk on paying you, and if it doesn't do well, they don't get their money back. But if you're one of the ones that do perform, that you have make up for everybody who doesn't. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty much it.
I'm just telling you straight up. That's what that means.
And just be aware too that these companies, if you feel bad, boo-hoo-hoo for them that they invested resources and time, whatever, into your thing. No, basically you're doing all the work. They're writing off the losses.
Yeah, and they're only going to go after people I think can do it.
Yes.
So, for every 5 people, probably 3 or 4 of them do what they want and one doesn't. But, we're taking all the risks. No, you're not.
No, are you doing the work? You're not making the work. You're basically, what happens is these people get locked into these agreements for multiple years.
How the rich get richer.
And the schedules are grueling because you have to update every week, so many updates per week. And Webtoons, I mean, look at how long those chapters are and look at how much art. And I know people are like, well, it's really simple art. I'm like, yeah, it's simple because it would literally kill you.
There are a lot of pages that aren't simple, depending, what the artist is and stuff, Regarding the Reddit's post claim that upon signing with Webtoon, the creator would be ceding ownership of their publishing rights to Webtoon. According to the spokesperson, Webtoon has an option to acquire the print publishing rights for a limited amount of time. But they have an option to acquire it. Should that option be exercised, they will acquire the rights and creators will receive a standard industry compensation determined by them in accordance with business practices common in the print book publishing in North America, which means you're going to get fucked over. You're going to get fucked over. Because you know what? I know what they do. I know how this works. I know how these books don't ever earn out, even though the company gives you another deal because they made money.
They will lowball you because, look, the advances have gone down. I mean, I can tell you that people were getting Scholastic back in the day. They were getting like $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, advances for book deals. Now, usually that was for like 2 books. But then I've heard of people only getting like $5,000 advances. So
and people who work for it, so they'll do it.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh my god, I get my book picked up by Scholastic." I'm like,
they think, okay, I get $5,000, and then I'm going to get a lot of money when the book sells. But then people aren't getting a lot of money when the book sells either, because you sold all these copies, but we're only giving you $1, and then you have to take your, agent gets a cut, and all these other things come out of it. But they're like, we have the option. So they said they do have the option to acquire it. But they're not saying that it's like the person, he or she that was complaining about it in the original post was basically like, they can just decide they're going to do this and then they can pay you whatever they feel like and say it's fair. They're not discrediting that. They're not saying that's not what happens. They say we have the right to option.
Yeah.
They're not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That does not go.
They're not saying, no, this is a lie. They're saying they're misrepresenting it. Now,
they're not misrepresenting it, it sounds.
If it were a lie, they would come out and say, yeah, they're totally lying. This isn't the truth. They're like, they're misrepresenting. And, we're investors and we're taking a risk on them. And it's like, yeah, it's true. You're using the platform. But basically, all you are is a paid content creator on the content farm.
You're a cog in the wheel.
You're
just a bigger cog than the other ones.
Yeah, you get paid more, but the truth is, I think on a lot of levels. Now here's the thing, because it's their algorithm, they absolutely positively push their originals to the top. It's very hard to get found on Webtoon unless now especially. But like they're going to, when people go Webtoon, they hit that homepage, it's going to be whatever they're pushing, just like YouTube. It's like whatever they're pushing,
and they're going to push people that signed with them.
Yeah.
So yes, it's giving you a platform that's going to grow your comic 100%, but it's only going to be it's always going to be a ceiling because it's only allowed to be on Webtoon.
Yeah.
But if you want to take it places they think it's something to be published, then they'll want to do a deal with you because you don't have to publish it. Remember when you're on there, you can only have it exclusively on there, so you can't do a publishing deal for 3 years until 3 years after your last chapter updates unless you let them option it to do it. Do you see how this is a problem here?
Yeah, because it used to be, now this is, we're talking, I haven't talked to anybody that's had any association with Webtoon in like at least 5 or 6 years. But it used to be that they had the digital rights, but you were free to go, like you would see Dark Horse pick up, Webtoon comics, or because you would have the print publishing rights. So you could take your stuff to a publisher like Dark Horse or Penguin or, what I'm saying? And that happened, or they'd do Kickstarters for these books or whatever, because they weren't interested in the books. And like I said before, I think what happened was Webtoon saw there's good money in book sales, and manga and Webtoon books pretty much dominate what at least Walmart carries. You go there, and it's just, there's 3 kinds of comic books. It's Scholastic, it's manga, and it's Webtoon. And they carry like even the Webtoon, the Batman family comics and stuff like that, they carry that there. And Lore Olympus sold very, very well.
But what I'm saying is, you're not allowed to have a publishing deal to 3 years after your last chapter unless you let them do it. You let them have the rights. Then you can get your book into print. Yep. By their guidelines, what they want to pay you, which is quote unquote industry standard.
Yeah, and they are pushing heavy into Hollywood and streaming deals. They've said as much.
Like what they've been doing since day one.
Yeah, and that's what they bought Wattpad for. I guess they bought Wattpad, and it's basically they are looking at this website as being an IP farm, and not just with Hollywood and streaming shows now, but they're also like, oh yeah, manga's popular now, so we'll sell comic books too. We'll see, you know what I'm saying? So they're not going to leave money on the table.
So next part. As for merchandising, guys, Webtoons describes the deal as an exclusive license to them to develop merchandising opportunities on the creator's behalf, with the creator receiving royalties from them. So basically, they are the only ones allowed to make merchandise. They are the only ones to sell it. They said it's exclusive. They say mostly to centralize efforts to find, negotiate, and finalize merchandising licensing efforts. No, it's to make sure they get all the money, and then they give you a royalty. That doesn't mean you're getting the profits. That means you're getting a percentage of it, whatever's decided upon as a royalty, and they take the rest. That's what that means.
You're an employee. You're basically an employee of Webtoon at that point. You're yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And if you're okay with that, and some people are okay with that, you know, they're like, at least I'm getting paid something. But I'm like, you know, if you're looking to go bigger and better with your stuff, other than just being a web comic, you know, you're leaving money on the table because it sounds like they're going to take the lion's share of everything.
As far as Webtoon becoming an agent for the comics creator Webtoon series, the platform says, once again, their contract simply describes an option to purchase multimedia rights subject to industry standard compensation terms, with the creator receiving the majority of the rights fees. Wait a minute.
Majority.
They have the option, okay, to take your stuff.
Yes.
To go sell it to TV, movies, or anime, and for the rights, but subject to the industry standard. But you know, you're going to get most of those rights fees that we go out, but we're the only ones allowed to take it anywhere to get deals. And then trust us, bro, you're getting most of the money.
Royalties? Do you get royalties off that, or just the
rights
one time?
Fees, it says.
Well, yeah, or you just get the one time.
I'm assuming it's the
option.
one time.
Like, okay, well, we gave you $10,000 is your cut of the option for whatever. Oh, look, this show's selling like gangbusters, or it's streaming like gangbusters now, and the merch is selling really well and whatever. But trust us,
you get
bros.
the royalties from the merch.
Okay.
But I don't know if you get anything beyond the rights fee. But you have to let them sell it, option it. If you want to do TV, movie, or anime rights, you have to go through them to do it. That's basically what an agent does. Except they take a bunch of money too. More than what I guarantee part an agent takes. I mean,
yeah, the agents,
again, I don't have the contract, but
10
if I
to
was
20%,
a betting person,
usually 10%, but yeah.
Webtoon compares this role to being a producer, not an agent, which means they're going to take a lot more money.
Yeah.
And then they said it's a very typical clause in publishing deals. That's like the theme park rights.
Yeah. So here's and we talked about this yesterday. As I understand it, here's what happened. Basically, J.K. Rowling was too successful with Harry Potter, and a lot of rights that no publisher in the 90s would have thought to retain, she kept. And so she was able to pimp out Wizarding World and Harry Potter and whatever, theme parks, toys, websites, spin-off series, all that stuff, because it was an oversight on their part, because they were just looking at book sales and possibly movies.
Is it though? Your job is to publish the book. It is not to be the owner of everything related to the book. And the thing is, I think these publishing companies are overstepping. And I can tell you that the theme park rights is something that is in the contract now that they get to keep.
It is.
Because we've seen the contracts.
Yes,
have the contracts.
Yes.
Public theme park rights is with publishers is definitely something that they are trying to make sure you sign over.
Yeah. Now, how it should ideally work, and how it did ideally work for years, is the author, the creator, was a partner with the publisher. The publisher would basically take care of the sales end of things and make sure that the book was ready to go for print and it would, hit the market, whatever. It was their job to basically sell the author's work. And yeah, they keep a lot more money than the author did. Yeah, they did, because you're talking production fees, marketing fees, distribution,
but then
whatever.
The author was allowed to take their work and get a TV deal, a movie deal, a
yes, those were separate. Those were separate.
But now publishers are trying to, at least in the case of Webtoon, they're admitting it. They're trying to, for centralization purposes. No, it's to control it. It's to make sure that nothing, you don't go behind their backs. All the money has to go through them, and then they'll give you a trickle. And, a producer means they get paid a lot more money. Yeah.
Now, and they talk about this later on in the article about how, I guess, people have been pushing back in South Korea against these terms, but it was kind of the norm. You basically became an employee of the company, and then they would go, whore out your stuff for anime. And we're seeing, like, Tower of God got turned into an anime. And again, Lore Olympus is, I honestly think if there's one catalyst for this, here in America, it's Lore Olympus being incredibly successful. And they're like, how much money are we potentially, I don't know what her deal was, but she was an earlier deal. It might be like, how much money did we miss out on because we let her have those rights?
I know in South Korea, they're constantly turning these webtoons into shows. So I'm sure it's locked down. But I love this. Finally, Webtoons characterizes the original's arrangement as one where Webtoon and the comics creator are business partners. Red flag. Red flag. Working together to use their resources to find mutually beneficial opportunities to invest in creators and their work, where the quiet part is where Webtoon gets most of the money. I mean, I'm not sure without the contract, I'm not sure, but that's how it comes across.
That's overreaching. Historically, publishers would publish somebody's work, and it wasn't really, I mean, it was a partnership in the fact that it was like, the author would write good stuff and the publisher would get the stuff out there. But at the end of the day, the publisher, they would have a contract for X number of years or whatever for a particular work that they would have the publishing rights, but they would not own it lock, stock, and barrel usually.
So I'm confused. Are they a producer? Are they your business partner? What the hell are they? Because
are they your wife?
I know. I mean, it's like there's
are they
a big
your
difference.
teacher?
There's a big difference between being a producer and being a business partner.
No, they own your ass. Basically, you sign this contract. The way it reads to me is they own your ass. They own everything you do. I mean, this is kind of like reminds me.
I mean, well, they own whatever they bought for the original.
Right, but this reminds me of like Mattel, if you worked for Mattel back in the day, because there was a whole big thing about brats.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yeah.
Where even if you were like an art director or something for Mattel, even if you would go do something on the side, they had the option of basically owning that too. And that's outside. They lost. Yeah, it was because of the Bratz lawsuit or whatever. But I'm like, that is a complete you hire somebody to do the job that you hire them to do. You make a deal on a case-by-case basis for books, and that's the deal. And you get the rights to this particular book. But that doesn't mean, unless you give somebody a fat-ass deal, that they, and a lot of publishers...
that was my name in high school. Fat-ass deal. No, I'm kidding.
Fad. I love you. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a on a case-by-case basis. A lot of times they'll give you a multi-book deal, or they'll say, hey, we have the option. We have the option. If you come up with a new book, we get to look at it first. And if we pass, you're free to take it someplace else.
There's a difference between having the option, first rights option. There's a difference between that. And and we're going to work with you. And if we want to take it, we will. But of course, we're going to treat it like any other deal where we pay you. Like there's a difference between that. There's a difference. And I think they're trying to make it sound like it's that, but it also sounds, it's worded very nebulously. And one thing I've learned about contracts and lawyers is you want things very specific, because if you don't, if it's too nebulous, they can spin it into anything they want it to be. And where their contracts are going to go out of their way to keep it nebulous, because then they can argue, oh no, we meant this.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to have a lawyer look at these contracts, because the lawyer's going to look at that and say, that's too broad, that's too general. You need to specify specifically what this means. Because if you don't, they can claim this, this, and this, even if they told you something else. So you really, really got to have a lawyer look at these.
They're saying they'll take a look at the contract if somebody wants to send one.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it too.
I'll take a look at it.
We won't tell people
you want to send me a contract? I'll take a look at it.
I mean, I'll give them credit for this one, but
This is one of the few times they actually do a journalism and not just puff. Because this actually, look, I'll give them credit. Webtoon has money. Webtoon advertises heavily, and they risk whacking the beehive with this one, and they risk advertising dollars, from Webtoon if they do this, if they publish this. Because Webtoon, they make it very, like I said, they tracked us down. They tracked me down personally.
On vacation.
I was on vacation. They tracked me down personally on Facebook. And they're like, well, we need to clear some stuff up. I'm like, I don't have to clear up shit with you. I just gave an opinion. Who the fuck are you?
They did. They came after us over. So they said they did learn there are several terms that Webtoon and creators can negotiate. This includes situations where Webtoon might acquire a portion of underlying IP, but in cases a creator opts out of this type of arrangement, creators could maintain 100% ownership, would maintain 100% ownership and have final say in any exclusive licensing opportunities that might arise. So you get final say in the licensing opportunities, but you have to still go through them to get the licensing opportunities. You get final say.
That's actually the only way I would even consider this. That'd be like,
that's not that far, out of the realm of possibility. That's pretty standard there.
Yeah, and a lot of times you got to realize too, when you're presented with a contract, and we've been down this road before.
Many times.
Many times, yeah. We got lawyers on speed dial. When you're presented with a contract, there is usually wiggle room. You can look at it and be like, no, I don't like this. You actually take the red pen to it. We
did just recently.
It is expected that you're going to call out stuff and ask for clarification. Because even if their intentions are good, the one thing you got to look at, you don't know who is going to be in charge at the company.
That's a valid point.
So
you don't know.
Even if you have a good relationship with them, even if if there are some issues in the contract that are not clearly spelled out or could be interpreted by a new party, another party, or a judge or whatever differently, then you need to have those clarified, because it is very, and we have been in this situation multiple times too, where we signed an agreement with one party and then another
told something by one party.
Yes, verbally. There was like, oh yeah, this is what this means, whatever. And then another party would acquire that party, and then they are like, no, we're going to hold you to the letter of the law, you know, the way it's written. And yeah,
sometimes they try to change it.
Sometimes they try to change it.
Story. We're working on one of those right now.
Working on one of those. Yeah. So. Yeah,
we're trying to save you from the learning lumps we've had to take. You know, we're trying to save you from the same thing.
And they do talk about how 3 years is a long time, and if your comic blows up, like by the time you get your rights back, nobody's gonna care.
Well, they even said it doesn't clarify. They never said specifically how long. They never brought up the rights, like how do you get your rights back and things like that. Like, is there a way to get back sooner? They mentioned that earlier in the article. They said they didn't make that clear.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, they have a bunch of responses from current and former Webtoon creators about what they said about the contracts, and it's very interesting. Yeah, so it sounds, these are people that actually, everybody's like, wow, they've made it. They're doing really well, including boyfriends. We'll talk about that. But this is creator of Your Wings and Mine. My offer wasn't this bad, but it's why I declined on signing it away to be an original. Yep. These contracts prey on inexperienced, desperate creators. Yes. And they know that lawyers are expensive, and a lot of people won't use one because it's expensive. And they just see money, and I can do this for a living, yay! And then you're going to get screwed. From the bun, I've been offered 2 contracts by one of the big boys during my time in online scrolling comics. They were so bad, it was what ultimately made me seek out work in a more financially stable field and keep my comics a passion hobby. Then you get to keep your rights. This is the creator of Raven Saga. Why do you think I never promote my series anymore? I'm quitting, and I don't want them to own my series after my contract is done. If the series don't bring them money, then they won't buy my IP. Ouch. So they're intentionally tanking it to make sure. That's what it sounds. Boyfriends. This is shocking because everybody thinks Boyfriends is like a big deal, right? Ray Dokomi, creator of Boyfriends, had a lot to say in Twitter. My contract is not even this bad. That's what we said yesterday. Like I'm aware of the terms from like 5 or 6 years ago, and they were not this draconian. My contract is not that bad, and I'm already ready to kill myself. Did you know that they stopped translating my Spanish version and refused to continue it at some point? I offered to pay for translations myself, and even then there was some pushback when I brought it up. Did you know they stopped acknowledging me publicly around 1 or 2 years ago? Do not sign with Webtoon, and if you're already there, don't sign any additional contracts like IP acquisition and merch contracts. It's all bullshit and empty promises. It sounds like it to me. From what I'm hearing, oh my God. So many red flags. Look at this. There's more. You want to read some? You can read some. Blades of Furry. Blades of Furry. Never sell your IP. A publishing company does not need to purchase IP to publish your comic. Any comic trying to purchase a majority stake or any percentage, in my opinion, is incredibly predatory. Now, look, if you are working with someplace, it's going to be expected that they get something. Like, you can't just say they're not just going to do it out of the goodness of their heart. Right. So they're going to want something. But there's a lot of red flags. Go ahead. What were you going to say? Nathan Hernandez. I turned down a BG job at Webtoon in December because I had a lot going on. They wanted me to sample 15 backgrounds in a week at below my rate at the time. The pace is breakneck. Like, you're expected to crank out a lot of content. And this is pretty much all you're going to be doing. So if you're comfortable doing this full time for a living for like $2,000 a month. Well, this next one kind of confirms what you were saying. Now, I think you saw contracts more recently than this. Yes. But I signed with Webtoon in 2015, and I thought giving them digital publishing rights for 3 years from the end date of my comic, and them still profiting off it while I didn't, was predatory. Now it's worse. At least I had print publishing rights and owned my IP. Okay, so yeah, that goes along with, because I know some people that took the original deals early were taking their comics to like Dark Horse. I saw a couple of those comics got picked up by Dark Horse. Some of them, I think Abrams picked one up, and some of them they did Kickstarters for. So obviously they had their rights. Then this last one is interesting too, and this is a very valid point. If you're seeing a lot of veteran Webtoon original creators not continue with Webtoons, or they're agenting up or getting their own deals in other places within the last year, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So they're talking the rest of it's like talk about Webtoons and stuff. But without seeing the contract, all we can do is talk about what people are saying. We don't know. We don't have the contract in front of us. So,
Yeah, they talk about how in Korea that some of the creators were pushing back against it and stuff too. So then they have a whole bunch of list of the controversies. I know there have been a lot of controversies with Webtoon. A lot of it was, they had the one just last year, the year before, was because they had that marketing campaign. It was like, hey, comics are literature's fun side hustle. It's just a side hustle. I'm like, no, you sign originals deal, you're going to be working like 80 hours a week and not getting a whole lot of money.
You might get paid like it's a side hustle.
Yeah, so they're not denying it. I mean, they're saying
they're denying it, but they're talking in circles.
They're not denying. They're choosing their words very carefully. They're trying to put the best light on.
They're being nebulous on purpose, so you can take it as, we meant this. It's like their contracts, and if that's what the contracts are doing, you need a lawyer to pinpoint it and be like, no, this is too broad. It needs to be pinpointed down. Yeah,
and it's the same with, they talked about Tokyo Pop, and at least in the case of Tokyo Pop, I mean, to their credit, whatever it's, I mean, they gave pretty good advances for the time for people that normally wouldn't have gotten an advance. They wouldn't have gotten their comics picked up. But I guess the problem people had was that they would have to buy their comic properties back.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was like a 3 years later.
No, it never expired. It's basically
you had to buy out the contract, whatever they gave you. You had to buy it back.
Yeah, and
so that was a problem.
And it was pretty much whatever they invested.
I know our understanding.
Yeah, and that happens with and people don't realize that either. It happens with Cartoon Network and stuff too. Like, I know the creators of Megas XLR wanted to continue it, and they're like, well, how much would it cost for us to buy it? Since you're not running the show anymore and you're not selling merchandise, can we just buy the rights back too? And they're like, yeah, it's millions of dollars, whatever we invested in it. You have to,
even though they made money.
Right. But then they could very easily go do another Megas XLR or Steven Universe or whatever. But the difference is with animation, like, very few people can do that on their own to the level that a Cartoon Network, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But just realize that, like, you get a show picked up or a book picked up or whatever by a place like that, they basically own that. They own your baby, and if you get too attached to it, it's like you're going to have to walk away. Fairly Odd Parents, they're continuing it without Butch Hartman, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
but the problem is, that's the thing. You have to take that into consideration. It's like, what do you want? Do you want the TV show deal? But you have to understand, if you get the deal, they're not just going to give you money and leave it at that. They're going to want ownership of part of it. So you have to decide what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, because if you can only go so far by not giving it away, then stick to your guns and don't go as far. Because maybe down the road, you might be able to go further on your own. You don't know. But a lot of times people don't realize by doing this, you're giving it away, because they're all predatory. They want your stuff. They want you to do all the work. They want your IP. They want to own it. And like, they take it and they ruin it. That's a whole other story.
Yep.
But, just understand that that's what ultimately they're going to do.
Yeah, and some people are okay with that. Some people are like, at least
I'll make another one.
I'll just go make another one. Yeah. And some people are so attached to that one thing. I mean, that's kind of with the Tokyo Pop thing. I was kind of like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but none of those properties really were like the next big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you very easily could, and they were created specifically for Tokyo Pop. So you very easily could be like, okay, well, they got that one, and I'm just going to go do something else, I'll go, and that's all you have to do. But yeah, don't sell your babies. I mean, for sure. And the same with Webtoon too. Like, if the comic you've got on Webtoon is like your baby, and then you sign over to originals, like that's it. And I guarantee you, Lore Olympus, I guarantee you this was a catalyst, because they looked at all the money that it was making in print and those Netflix deals, and I don't know if they're getting a cut of that or not, but I'm sure they won. They
probably were, because they were the ones brokering those a lot of times. But what gets me concerned is the fact that they pay that their part owner or business partner, and that by saying that means they get a say in everything. They get to broker everything. They get to be the ones who get to the money first.
Yeah. Yep. So there we go, guys. Beware. I guess we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.